My name is Gib Bulloch and I'm the Executive Director of Accenture Development Partnerships, which is a sort of unusual part of Accenture, a business within a business, a social enterprise I actually call it within Accenture, which seeks to provide business and technology expertise to the development sector on a non-profit basis. We take Accenture's people, we cut their salary, we cut the profit off, and we offer them not free of charge but at an affordable rate. And I've been doing this for the last 11 years of my career within the firm, and I believe I've got the best job in Accenture, and I'm pretty lucky. So the international development sector, loosely defined I guess, is the whole ecosystem of donors, development agencies, NGOs or charities if you will, who are working on some of the big intractable challenges of health, water access, energy access, education, big global challenges that maybe the United Nations would call the Millennium Development Goals, these goals that governments have got together that they want to achieve as part of the global society that we live in. I've really got quite interested in the whole issue of education over the last few years, I would say, and in particular the role of business in education, because I believe to date that education has been something of a CSR issue for business. You know, we might build a school here, we might fund an initiative there, but that we still expect that the talent that we need to run big global companies like the one I work for, like the clients that we work with, it will magically keep turning up. The resumes will turn up on our doorstep. They'll have been through primary, secondary, further education, funded by and large by states in different countries, and then we will hire these people, put them out to work, and make our shareholders and customers happy. I look and I extrapolate out and I see a change, a big change in the demographics, and this was brought home to me during a trip to India that I made 2 or 3 years ago to a World Economic Forum event in India. And the statistic that's really stuck in my mind was somebody said that by 2030, so we're not talking next century, we're not talking 100 years away, we're talking about just over 15 years away, we will require India to provide 1/4 of the global talent pool in the world. And that statistic just really stuck with me. The brain started churning over and thinking, my goodness, yes, it's a very populous country, well over 1 billion people, a very high birth rate, very high birth rates in countries like Nigeria, which is very much in the news at the moment, and Indonesia. These countries are the countries that we will be most dependent on for the future talent. Frankly, in North America, in Europe, where I come from, Scotland originally, birth rates are falling. And so there is going to be a switching in terms of the demographics. The talent pool is going to change. And these countries that we will be most dependent on for talent, like India, are the countries that probably have the least well-equipped or least resourced education systems. India has anything from 30 to 50% teacher absenteeism. The quality of education is bad. We can talk about the 57 million kids who are out of school in the world at the moment, but even the ones who are lucky enough to be in school might not be getting a great education, might not be coming out with the skills and knowledge that we as companies, and also governments, you know, we need doctors and nurses and teachers and public servants, but as companies alone, we won't have the skills that we need to grow into the future. And I'm not sure that as a global community, as leaders within the business community, we have been thinking that 10, 20, 30, 40 years out. We think next quarter and maybe the quarter after, and it seems fine. But with this changing demographics, what's the role of business going to be to strengthen these systems, to make sure that we can develop the future talent? How can we move from this being a social issue or a CSR issue for business to being a fundamental strategic imperative that we are going to need? We're in the human capital business as Accenture. We need to develop talent. And if I think about it, given that we We employ almost 100,000 people in India. Companies like ourselves and the others that employ so many people in India need to be thinking about the child born tomorrow in India. And the child born tomorrow in India not only has to be well nourished in the first 24 months of life to develop their brains and their cognitive skills, hopefully stay alive till their 5th birthday, too many don't, but then get into school, learn something in school, make it to secondary school, not drop out, and actually then come out 20 years down the line with skills to be, in vulgar terms if you will, or purely economic terms, an asset, a profitable, economically productive asset for the Indian government, for their country, for the world. You know, India will be providing so many of these people for the world, for North American companies, for European companies to employ. And if we're not starting to think about that value chain of life, that value chain of talent, how we make the interventions to make sure that that child, that young girl born tomorrow is an employee of us, or a doctor, or a teacher, or someone who comes and migrates abroad, if we're not thinking about that, then we're in for a problem. So that's why I believe that education needs a paradigm shift in the way that we're thinking about it at the moment. I don't believe that this talent issue is unique to global businesses or even local businesses. I think this is an issue that is one of these large intractable issues that we all have to think about. We are moving rapidly with the digital revolution, the role that technology is playing. We're going to move towards much more of a knowledge economy, such that the services that a local company in Wisconsin or wherever it happens to be may be providing may be requiring someone to be doing a process or analysis in a far-off place. It may involve someone who has migrated and been working in that particular company. So some will migrate. Technology will allow us to do a lot more remotely. Technology will allow us to run back office analysis and services remotely in different places. And so, you know, I think this is something for all of us. We are going to need human capital, resource, skills, small and large, nationally and locally as well as internationally. And so for me, this is something that we all have to think about. This is one of these issues that I believe every senior business leader needs to be thinking about. Where are the skills that I'm going to require tomorrow, where are they going to come from? Now, I am perfectly willing to admit that no one company, no matter how large they are, even the largest huge organizations, some of which are frankly bigger than many countries out there economically, they cannot solve it on its own. Our company cannot solve this on its own. But what I think it will take is companies to stand up and business leaders to stand up and say this is a pre-competitive issue for all of us. And we are going to have to join forces with each other, businesses to business, but also with governments, national governments, perhaps with other development institutions, to try and build a coalition to solve this. And one such coalition that I would point to at the moment is the Global Business Coalition for Education, which is actually a business-driven coalition to bring leaders together at the highest levels in companies to talk about how we jointly solve this problem of the skills, the demographic time bomb of talent that I've talked about just now. And that's going to be difficult, and it's going to take strong leadership, and it's going to take a long-term mindset. That is this challenge between the CEOs today may have a life expectancy, thankfully not literally, but in terms of in their roles, of about 3 years. And I'm talking 20, 30-year challenges. But if we're not thinking about them today, then leaders are reneging, I believe, on the stewardship of their own companies and their responsibilities for tomorrow, and the shareholders of today and tomorrow.